When you find a donor on your own, as opposed to using a sperm bank, you have to pay for all the testing on every single candidate that you present. So for instance, when you get sperm from a bank, it's already tested genetically for sexually transmitted diseases as well. You know that you're getting a specimen that's healthy with a good sperm count. Whereas when you find someone on your own, you're gonna have to do that for every single candidate. When you use a friend as a sperm donor, it comes with a lot of emotion. You may see that person throughout your life. So what kinds of expectations you may have now of how they'll behave may not be exactly how they behave later. So when you have a child, they may want to visit with that child even though they said they didn't. Or relatives may find out that they had a child and want to seek out that child. So you have a lifelong commitment to that person if you know who they are, and there are challenges that come with every person that you know and their emotions and how they interact with your family. Whereas you have an unknown donor, or someone who currently isn't identified, then you have a lot more choices as to when to expose your child to the fact that there was a donor, and when to give them education about who that might be, and when maybe if they have an open donor, they can seek some contact from the donor. When you find a donor, let's say as a friend or on the internet, each donor has to go through a panel of genetic testing and also a panel of sexually transmitted disease testing, as well as a psychological interview. And that takes a number of months to complete, usually about 6 months in total with the quarantining of the sperm. And that can be very costly. When a donor comes to a bank, typically they are sold their sperm to 25 families, so those costs are spread over all the families. When you have your own donor, you're paying for all those costs, so it's much more expensive. The advantage of using a sperm bank instead of going to the internet to find a donor or using a friend is that a sperm bank will test the sperm for its motility, and also they will wash the sperm and make sure when you're doing an insemination that it's a very good quality specimen. You're going to know all of that before you even pick the donor, right? Because if a donor doesn't have a good quality or doesn't pass all the testing, they're never going to be put in the bank for sale. So when you're using a friend or you find somebody, you have to go through all of that initially and then find out if the person that you want to use is a good person to use as a donor. That's going to have a lot of emotional and cost consequences, right? Because if you have your heart set on a donor and then they get tested and they don't work out, there's not only the financial cost, but there's the emotional cost of doing that many times. So when you go to a donor, you're going to have a choice of a lot of different donors who are all of good quality.